All right, so welcome again, Sally, to the Zoom room. We'll just dive straight into our teaching for today. Just get the live stream going quickly, and give me a moment to accomplish that. Okay, I'll share my screen. Okay, so off we go, and that's okay. That's what we want. All right. So will you read the quote?
Most folks are about as happy as they make their minds up to be. Yeah, I smile.
A very simple quote by misattributed. I don't think it actually was said by Abraham Lincoln, but doesn't really matter who said it, because the idea it expresses is what really matters. So the idea that happiness is a conscious choice rather than a state that happens to you if you're lucky enough to have a pleasant or pleasurable experiences in the world is one of the central principles of this course, A Course in Miracles, and any spiritual teaching for that matter. That we can always choose our response to every situation, and we can choose to be happy, as this quote says, about as happy as you make up your mind to be. So if you're determined to be happy no matter what, then happiness will be yours. But if you allow the ego to come in and sabotage your happiness repeatedly through all of the external things and events that seem to happen, then happiness is going to be very, very variable, not consistent. So just talk about this session, that bonus session that I put out today. I talked about some extremely practical techniques you can practice to help you, because it's all very well saying, well, how do I make up my mind to be happy? In practice, how does that work? Well, this is what spiritual practices are and what they do. So if you take to make up your mind to be happy, literally it means to enhance your mind so you will be happy. Make up, enhance, improve your mind. And that's really what spiritual practices do. So things like breathing, talked about the beneficial effects of conscious breathing, which is a very old technique for just starting to access a deeper level of happiness. There's another great quote about a butterfly. Remember that one I shared, where happiness is like a butterfly. If you're in hot pursuit of it all the time, then you won't find it. But if you just sit quietly, then it may come and alight upon you. That's the idea. So just by breathing and watching your breath, you're sitting quietly, you're stilling the mind. You're allowing this seemingly quite elusive state called happiness just to alight in your mind. So just conscious breathing can bring people a great deal of happiness just by sitting and consciously watching your breath. It's actually that simple. So I did a breath watching meditation, and we'll do that as part of today's session as well. And then I talked about the ancient roots of these techniques, in spiritual traditions like yoga, Buddhism, how they had just applied in that simple breath watching to meditation, the 4 of the 8 limbs of yoga. So those 4 limbs of yoga are pranayama, so breath watching. Breath control is what pranayama means. Asana, which is a posture. So most people think of posture as, well, I'm doing yoga postures, standing up or sitting down, but actually posture is part of meditation. You need to get into a posture for the meditation and hold the posture through the meditation. So that's the asana of the posture. There's also a pratyahara, it's called, which is withdrawal of the senses. So you withdraw your senses by going within, you close your eyes, by focusing your mind just on the breathing, you taking attention away from all of your other senses and putting it on just the single sensation of your breath. So that's a withdrawal of the senses. And then there's they call it dharana, which is a focused meditation type technique where you focus on one thing. So that's the start of meditative practice in the yogic tradition. It's limb number 6, which is focusing one's attention on a single thing. So that could be the breath, or it could be a mantra, which you say to yourself, or it could be an open-eye meditation with a candle flame. But the idea is a single-pointed focus, which then starts to bring the mind into single-pointedness, into one-pointed state that is essential for meditation. And then that leads to the deeper levels of meditation, which they call dhyana. Actually, sorry, dhyana is it doesn't really matter, but the focused meditation is called dhyana, and then dharana is a more deeper contemplative type of meditation, where the focus on the single point drops away, and you just kind of you become aware of your pure formless awareness. And so you're just in that awareness with no particular focal point. So that's advanced meditation. And then that leads to samadhi, which is the 8th stage, the 8th limb, which is the total enlightenment. So if you're practicing the first 7 limbs, it leads you to the 8th stage, which is a luminous, equanimous, peaceful, and totally self-aware state of mind. The word samadhi means total self-collectedness in Sanskrit. So you've had some of those experiences. It's interesting to see that this is not uncommon. Many spiritual practitioners have had these experiences, and they're well described in traditions like the yogic tradition. And then finally, I just mentioned that the course, the Art of Letting Go course in 1-year program, really integrates the first 7 limbs of yoga into a daily program over 6 weeks to help people fundamentally transform the way they think and perceive everything and everyone, including themselves. So it's actually, if you do the program, you're doing the 7 limbs of yoga, because it's incorporated into things like the breath breaks, the meditations, the discussions, all based on yogic principles, even though that's not explicitly made that explicit. Can have a quick look at. Let's just Google 8 limbs of yoga. Let's see if we get a diagram. Might be useful. In terms of yoga, so they're the 8 limbs. What I like about it is it's not linear. If you do it as a wheel like this, it's showing you that they're all a part of this wheel. And the top is samadhi, so that's the ultimate state of union or integration. In the course teachings, we call that revelation. If you're in samadhi, you're really not aware of physical senses anymore. You're just in your deeper mind. They have the yamas and the niyamas, so external disciplines. These are things like related to the way you eat and you sleep, diet, exercise, these kinds of things that discipline our mind and our body. And then niyama, is internal discipline. So that could be something like letting go of harmful thoughts, letting go of aggressive, attacking thoughts. Any kind of mind training, internal discipline. Asana, that's posture. So asana was traditionally in yoga, before they invented all the postures that we now know as yoga. Asana was primarily about the meditation posture that you took, which is interesting. So whenever you sit, that's why whenever I set you up for breath break or meditation, all right, so take posture, sit comfortably, or just spend a few seconds getting into the correct posture in meditation. Pranayama was breath control. So that's why we do breath holding, we do breath watching. It's all part of pranayama. And pratyahara, withdrawing the senses. So as you go within and you focus on the breath, or you're just going into your deeper awareness, you're focusing on, interesting that the course uses lessons, it uses ideas to do that. So you focus in on the lesson, and that's like your single pointed focus. So that would be the dharana. Actually, I did have it correctly, sorry. Dharana is the concentration. So concentration on a single point. So you concentrate on a lesson, for instance, you concentrate on doing the workbook lesson. That would be this idea of focused concentration. And then that leads you to a deeper meditative absorption. But he's meeting us. What I love about the course and the meditation practice he gives us is that he's meeting us at the beginner level. He's not expecting us to go into meditative absorption, which is quite advanced. He's saying, well, let's just work on where you are and take these simple ideas. And he has a practice of focusing on the ideas in a very focused way that's going to focus the mind. And it's also you're learning these ideas. They're getting more deeply programmed into the mind. So the whole Art of Letting Go program is structured, based on the course's teachings. And then you've got the 8 limbs of yoga operating in the background. I don't make it very explicit because it doesn't really matter. That these are there as long as they integrate it into the practices and people are doing it. That's all that really matters. But today's, I just thought it's useful to understand the roots of this. That this has very deep roots. So you've got roots in A Course in Miracles, which is coming from Yeshua as the Christ, the leader of the At-One-ment, and that's very much as Bill Thetford said, it's like the Christian Vedanta. So it's very much along the lines of Advaita Vedanta, which is the ultimate non-dual teaching of India, which out of which things like yoga and Buddhism were born. And then you've also got in the Design of the Art of Letting Go program, you've got these principles that have been incorporated in to the design. So if you do the program, you're actually doing the 8 limbs of yoga and following the path of Advaita Vedanta, just using a sort of more modern westernized version of it, which is A Course in Miracles. So it's kind of these ancient principles and teachings, just updated into a more modern context and hopefully more user-friendly than if you did it the traditional way. Okay, so
when it says withdrawal of senses, that's an interesting word, withdrawal. So I can see that you go to a place where there's no senses. Just intrigued by the withdrawal part. Is it an intention? Not feeling the senses?
It's withdrawing attention from the senses. That's really what it means. So you withdraw your attention. So you're not aware of all the body sensations when you start the meditative practice. So just by breath watching, you're withdrawing your senses because you're just focusing. Let's say you just focus on the breath flowing in and out the nostrils. You focus just on that sensation. You're withdrawing your other senses. Your eyes are closed, so your visual sense isn't there. Your auditory sense, you're not really focusing on listening to anything. You're focusing on one of the senses as a way of withdrawing, all of the 5 senses. And then that leads you into a focused concentration, dharana, which is focusing on a single point, which is the breath. And so that's in the Buddhist meditation practice, Vipassana. They start with Anapana, which is focusing on the breath, just focusing on the sensation of the breath in the nostrils. So that incorporates, the dharana, the concentration, as well as the withdrawal of the senses that's going on there.
So if somebody's in a lot of pain, and I was like saying, feel into it, sense if it's hot, cold, hot, and all that sort of thing. It's kind of like polar opposite to that, isn't it?
Well, it's interesting because the Vipassana, what they do is they actually then, from the Anapana, they graduate into, okay, feel the body sensations. So, but there's still a withdrawal of the senses going on because your other senses are shut down. Your visual senses, you close your eyes. You're not focusing on auditory perception. It's the single sense of feeling into the body. So although you're using a sense, in this case feeling, you're cutting out a lot of the other, the visual sense, which is very distracting, auditory, you cut that out, you do it in silence. So the pratyahara is part of that practice. And the Buddha would have been aware. I mean, these principles of yoga were, I don't think they'd been formalized yet because, Patanjali only came in and he wrote these down, I think in the 2nd century after AD. But the principles were very much there. He would have been aware of these. So you can see in the Buddhist practice that there was a incorporated into the Vipassana meditation with these principles. Dharana, concentration, pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses, asana, you have to get into a posture, pranayama, breath control. It's very, anapana is breath control. So these principles underpin these Eastern practices and teachings. And so I just took the best of the West, which is A Course in Miracles, and the best of the East, which is incorporated into yoga and the Buddhist practice of Vipassana, and then you amalgamate them into a program that's hopefully quite easily doable and you don't have to reference to this. You don't need the jargon. For a lot of people, this language, the Sanskrit language, it's not their home language, so it doesn't really mean anything. You start talking about dharana, dhyana, and all these samadhi. It's not really relevant. But today I'm just referencing, making you and anyone else who's listening aware that there are these deep spiritual roots to the program. It's based on spiritual teachings and practices that are thousands of years old and have stood the test of time. Okay, is there any other questions about that?
No, that's good.
Okay. If you do this program, which you've been doing almost a year now, then you're actually applying these yogic principles in your life in a systematic kind of progressive way. And it's no accident then that the experiences you start getting are those samadhi type experiences, because that's what they're designed to do if you practice these things. So the principles work. It's just will you apply them? So this is and it's really about fundamentally transforming the way you think and perceive everything and everyone. That's what this program is designed to do. All our experience of life is made up of is our thoughts and emotions arising usually in response to apparently external circumstances and events. So if we change our thoughts and emotions, then we change our life. It's life-changing. That's what it means. You change your thoughts and emotions about everyone and everything. That's completely life-changing, because that's what your life is made up of. So yeah, there's if you want to dive into that, there's a nice recorded session on the beneficial effects of conscious breathing. how breathwork integrates with the 8 limbs of yoga, which leads us nicely into our lesson for today, which is a good one. I love this lesson. My happiness and my function are one. Lesson 66. So let's dive into that, shall we? Let's just bring up, in case we need to edit anything, I'll bring up the Word document. Okay, so my happiness, my function are one. A very simple lesson, doesn't need any translation. So if you want to read paragraph 1.
You have surely noticed an emphasis throughout our recent lessons on the connection between fulfilling your function and achieving happiness. This is because you do not really see the connection, yet there is more than just a connection between them. They are the same. Their forms are different, but the content is completely one.
Okay, any thoughts on that?
Happiness is usually seen as external. The purpose that everyone's searching for, the reason for living, feels quite elusive internally sometimes, doesn't it? That you can only feel through it step by step. And yeah, it's an interesting one, not being able to feel happiness now. For a lot of people, I think it's in the future when they've found their purpose, when they've found that job. It's an art form, isn't it? To realize really your function is here now and your happiness is here now.
Yeah, it's so simple. It's such a simple idea, and yet it's elusive for most people. The ego sets up a situation where happiness is always tomorrow. Happiness is always going to come. You know, when I do this, when I get this accomplished, when I do this, when I experience this, when I have this, then I'll be happier, or then I'll be happy. And of course, we get there, even if we accomplish what we set up, we find that we're actually a bit deflated, a bit disappointed, because we're expecting it to be so amazing, and then it's not. And so then the ego says, okay, we'll carry on, expect something else. And so happiness is always in the future, never now. And that's how the ego keeps us out of the now and away from the true source of happiness, which is our pure formless awareness that can only be accessed now. So it's so obvious once you unpick it and you can see it, but yet this is how most people live their lives, and it's why most people in our society is not a very happy one, because the mind, ego mind, won't allow happiness now. The happiness has to be projected into the future and seen as elusive, because if you're happy now, then what there's no food for the ego there. There's no pain, there's no suffering, there's no sickness, there's no reason to be upset, there's no reason to be fearful or anxious or guilty. Then all of those thoughts and emotions which make up the ego, there's no justification for it. You're just happy. So it's happiness is the undoing of the ego. So that's why people say, well, I just want to be happy, but actually they don't really want to be. They can't stand happiness for very long. They need to create some drama, because the ego requires the drama in order to maintain its sense of a separate existence. But actually our true function is just to be happy, because when we're happy, we're in our true awareness. We can only be now in the pure formless awareness of perfect love that transcends all illusions, and then happiness is a given if we're in that state. So what I like about this lesson is he's making the relationship very explicit. He's saying, actually, your function and your happiness are one. When you fulfill your function, previous lesson was all about lesson 64. Let me not forget my function. Well, my function is to let go. My function is forgiveness, but my function and my happiness are one, because forgiveness or letting go is the means for experiencing happiness. So it's kind of obvious. So you go, yeah, well, why does he have to point this out? But he has to point it out to us and make it very explicit, because we're so confused, because the ego's got us so confused about what our true function is. And it's telling us that our function is everything but forgiveness or letting go and happiness. There's all kinds of other functions, none of which will make us happy, until we start to acknowledge, the simple truth that the only way we're going to experience happiness is to fulfill our function, which is to let go. So letting go equals happiness, and not letting go means we're not fulfilling our function, we're not on purpose, and we're going to be unhappy. It's a pretty simple equation, really. But we study these lessons so that he makes it very explicit, and we can no longer believe the ego's arguments against our happiness. It just doesn't stack up anymore.
Yeah, something's coming up for me about this is us telling us, isn't it? That this text is speaking from the part of us that knows this. And then going back to yesterday's one about this information is already with us. It's just when we're willing to hear it clearly. Because I can feel you saying it, and I can also hear it's not clear. I know it's not as clear as it could be. It's really interesting.
It is. It should be obvious, but it's not. For most human beings, this relationship is not obvious. Oh, my only function is to be happy. I thought my function was to be a good mother or father, or a good employee, or a good business owner, or a good sportsman, or whatever I identify my character with. I thought that was my function. No, my only function is actually to be happy. It's quite a revelation for many people. Oh, actually, that's my only purpose, is to be happy. So if I'm not happy, then I'm not fulfilling my function. I'm not meeting my purpose. Okay, well, then I need to correct it. I need to correct my mind so that I do fulfill my purpose. And then, these other things, the roles and so on we play, just happen. They happen as part of the flow of life, and we're happy. We take our happiness into those roles and those situations that those roles create. But what's primary is that we're happy. That's foundational. Because if you don't have that, then all of your experiences are pointless. What's the point? Then none of it makes you happy. What is the point of living an unhappy life? There is none. There's no point.
If anybody asked me, I'd say I was very happy, very, very happy. But I notice that when I look around me, I see unhappy people. So the parts of me that are not happy. When I think about Jesus or Jeshua, that I don't see that he was happy in the dream. So that must be an aspect of me that doesn't see that clearly yet.
That he wasn't. Why do you think he wasn't happy?
I don't know. I just don't see that vision in my mind. I see him tormented and having to leave his family and being at conflict with people, and people didn't understand him, and then he chose to end his life in a way that didn't seem, in my mind, quite ideal. And so I know it's a reflection of me, and I know it's a part of me, how I'm seeing it. Just listening to you talk, and it's making me realize I do see people, not everybody, some, not 100% happy. Must be some more for me to work on.
Well, if you're aware of the unhappiness in someone else, and it's sitting there in your mind, then that idea of unhappiness is still there. So the letting go is letting go of all belief in unhappiness. I think Yeshua, I mean, he certainly had his challenges, but I think through it all he was happy. What struck me, if you watch things like Risen and The Chosen, Chosen series. Risen, there was only a couple of snapshots, but I thought they captured the joy. There's the scene. Did you watch Risen?
No, I started to. I couldn't watch it.
What?
I don't know. It just didn't. It made me cringe, so I had to stop.
Okay, the crucifixion part.
Even earlier, it just didn't feel very.
Right. Yeah, it gets better. The first 15, 20 minutes is quite hectic, and then it improves. But it's graphic. I think the reason that the filmmakers did that is because they wanted to demonstrate the brutality of the times. There was just these wars going on, and people would just get killed and then crucified, and death, suffering, and death were just a normal part of life. And so then Yeshua comes into that, and he's just spreading this message of love and peace and joy. And what struck me later on in the movie, when he returns, so he's resurrected and he comes to see his disciples. He's sitting in a room with them, and there's so much happiness and laughter. They're laughing and smiling. He's laughing and smiling. It's just a very gentle. It's not sort of holier than thou at all. It's just he's just connecting with them, and he's sharing, and they're touching him, and he's enjoying hanging out with his friends. Okay, he's just come back from the dead, so that makes it a little bit extraordinary. But otherwise, he's just he's having a chat to his friends he hasn't seen for a while, and there's so much joy that comes through, and the Roman soldiers just completely blown away. His whole thought system is undone in that moment. Because not only is this guy come back from the dead, but he's so happy and joyful. Which is totally the opposite of what he should be, given what's happened, the crucifixion, and that doesn't seem to bother him at all. And he treats him with respect. He says, "Welcome, Clavius, welcome." Come in, and he acknowledges him. It's like, hang on, I'm your so-called persecutor, and you just welcome me in. It totally blows his mind. It's just demonstrating the thought system. And then also, if you still got that perception of Yeshua, if you watch The Chosen, it's a series on his life, which goes into a lot of detail. Each episode is like one of the chapters, maybe, or even just focuses in on individual miracles, and you do get a sense. I think that did it quite well. Of he was a man, as well as being the Christ, and there was a lot of laughter and happiness and joy in his presence. It wasn't all serious and dour. In the one, there's the one on. You remember the miracle of when he turned water into wine. It was his first proper miracle. So they had a whole episode on that, and they showed it was a wedding celebration. So the feast, and they showed him dancing, having done the miracle. He then goes and he has a party. He's dancing with his disciples, and they're having a good time. And it's a lot of happiness and laughter and joy. So I think that's important to realize that he wasn't that way. And what he's asking us is, he's just asking us to be happy. Happiness means laughter and joy and fun. And it's not all serious and dour. And I just want to get out of here because this place is hell. And there are those aspects of the teaching. It's designed to correct your mind. But the whole point of this is to deliver you into the state of mind that is a happy dream, where you really can just experience that happiness arising as part of your daily life, as part of your dream. So you experience the happy dream. And there is a point to the happy dream, because the happiness and peace and the joy that flow through are coming from your source. And so you're connected to your source while you're in the dream world. And that's what gives it any meaning that it has, is that connection. And then experiencing that and extending it out from us to others, and helping others experience that. That's the point. That's the only reason to remain here, is to live the happy dream and yourself, and express and extend happiness to others. And if you're not doing that, there's really no point to your existence. Yeah. So it's a great lesson to just make this idea of happiness very explicit. He hasn't really addressed it up until this point in the workbook, but now he makes it very explicit. So my happiness and my function are one. And my only function is my happiness. And if I could live that way, then I'm living correctly. I'm living in alignment with these principles. And the ego is going to tell you, well, that's very self-indulgent, to just want to be happy. I mean, how self-indulgent? No, you've got a job to do. You've got responsibilities to fulfill. That's more important. But that's all the lie that it's told us. Actually, the only important thing is to be happy.
Yeah, there was something passing through me when you were talking that when I'm with somebody that's happy, it's infectious, and I can be absolutely 100% happy with somebody that's happy, and you can just be happy for no reason, can't you? So obviously that's to teach happiness, isn't it? It's just to be happy, not to see unhappiness, not to try and make someone happy, just be happy.
Yeah. And your state, if it's infectious, will tend to shine away their state.
Yeah.
Because it's contagious one way or another. Unhappiness is also infectious. Someone's deeply unhappy, then they spread that.
It's just being it, isn't it? You don't have to have an intention to make anyone happy, because they are you. So it's an aspect of you having this infectious happiness. So you're infecting yourself with happiness by being happy and not focusing on unhappiness. I know what I mean.
So you're saying if happiness is your natural state, it comes from your true awareness, then all you've got to do is let go of what doesn't make you happy to be happy. You don't have to try and be happy. It's not, see, the ego is telling you, no, you're unhappy and you need X, Y, and Z to make you happy. So it's coming from the place of you don't have happiness and now you've got to seek it. And of course, you'll never find it. But the Course turns that around, says, no, you're already happy. Your true state, your natural state is happy. So just let go of whatever's blocking that. And then your happiness is guaranteed. If there are no blocks to the awareness of happiness, to the awareness of love, it's the same thing, then your natural state is happiness. And you don't have to try and be happy. This idea that you can try to be happy and you can do things to be happy is the illusion. No, you are happy in your natural state, as you are. As you were created by God, so you remain happy. So just let go of everything that blocks that. And then happiness is guaranteed.
I think it's also about allowing others to be happy, because it feels like there's an inner restriction, an inner limitation that I can feel. It's very subtle, but there's like, it's too good to be true that everybody's happy. I can't quite allow that. It's interesting.
Well, it undoes the ego. If everyone's happy, then the world doesn't exist. Everyone being happy means we're in our true awareness of love, and the entire world has disappeared, because the world is an unhappy place. The world is designed to stimulate unhappiness, as a justification for unhappiness. That's its purpose.
Wow.
So the idea that we're happy always collapses the dream. It's not a happy dream. It was designed to be an unhappy dream. It's designed to put you in hell. It's designed to take you away from happiness. So everyone being happy all the time is a transcendent state of mind that says, well, the world is pointless, right? There's no need for an unhappy world if happiness is all you're here to experience. I mean, you can see the logic of it. Why would you create? Why would God, who wants only our happiness, create such an unhappy world? It doesn't make any sense. Was to put us here so that we've got all these lessons to learn, go through all this pain and unhappiness, to finally realize that we're happy? I mean, does that make any sense? Why would a loving creator do that to its creations? It doesn't make any sense. So, the only explanation is that we've done this. We willfully decided, no, we want a separate self. We don't want love. We don't want happiness. So we denied it. And we miscreated an identity and a world that are very unhappy as a result. And that had nothing to do with God. It has nothing to do with our true function. And so we just need to recognize the delusion of it and let it go. Okay, so the ego does constant battle. Number 2.
The ego does constant battle with the Holy Spirit on the fundamental question of what your function is. The belief in separation does constant battle with the remembrance of perfect love on the fundamental question of what your function is. So does it do battle with the Holy Spirit about what your happiness is? So does it do battle with the Holy Spirit?
So let's just make that simpler. So it also does. That's much better, isn't it?
It also does constant battle with the remembrance of perfect love about what happiness is. Yeah. It is not a two-way battle. The ego attacks and the Holy Spirit does not respond. The belief in separation attacks and the remembrance of perfect love does not respond. He knows that it is your happiness. It knows that it is your happiness. That's lovely. Not responding. One-way attack.
It simply knows that this is not true. So whatever the ego is telling you is a lie. It's not true, and it keeps you in your true awareness that happiness is my only function, and there's nothing self-indulgent or selfish about this. This is higher selfishness, if you like. Capital selfishness. My function is to be happy, because if I'm happy, I can spread that. I can be an influence for happiness, for good in this world. Because everything I do is infused with my happiness, and it is contagious. And others will see that and find more happiness through my life. Well, that's the only reason why we're here. It's a dream world. It's not created by God. It's a delusion. But while you're here, then you may as well be happy and help others to be happy. Well, what else could your function be? I mean, it's kind of obvious. It should be obvious. Well, so your function is to be unhappy then? Take the opposite position. No, my function is to be happy. The ego says, no. Okay, well, then what's my function? Well, then it must be the opposite. Your function is to be unhappy. I mean, that's just a bizarre step. My function is to be unhappy? Really? Can you really believe that? When you make it explicit like this, then it's obviously ridiculous. But yet, there's many people in this world who believe that their function is to be unhappy, because they are unhappy. So then, by definition, that's what they believe their function is.
Well, it seems inevitable, doesn't it? I was just Googling what happiness means. It says an state characterized by feelings of joy, satisfaction, contentment, and fulfillment. I can see why happiness would be out of reach in many cases. Yeah, because the idea of being joyful, if you've not had that, it seems unattainable, doesn't it? And then
for many people, it's no. I have no capacity to be happy. I've only ever known misery and pain, and this is what I think I deserve. You see, most insidious of all, the ego tells you don't deserve to be happy. Because you're so unworthy, you don't deserve to be happy. And with a belief like that, how can you be happy?
And being available for happiness as well.
Yeah.
That Marissa Peer's idea of being available for it is really.
I was thinking about that as well. She mentioned some lady came on the on a radio call or something with her, and she said, "Oh well, why don't you take a bus?" She'd never seen the ocean. So why don't you take a bus and go to the ocean? No, that's not available to me. I can't do that kind of thing, right? So what she's really saying is, I'm not entitled to be happy. I can't just take a couple of hours and do something just for the joy of it. But that's all just a self-limiting belief. Actually, you can and should be happy, and then your life flows forward in a happy state. It's not saying you're just going to bliss out and be happy and do nothing. You're happy in what you're doing, and that happiness in action becomes the flow state, you see. But the foundation needs to be there. Foundational happiness needs to be there. You won't find flow in your daily life if you're not happy. Fundamentally, you can't just sit quietly and be happy. Then very unlikely you'll be able to take happiness into action where it's more challenging and flow with life and be in that flow state. So the teaching is, if you're calling the masterclass, it's a foundational happiness, number one, authentic happiness, and then you attain that through letting go. What brings you authentic happiness, foundational happiness? Well, let go of all the blocks to its awareness. So let go of everything that makes you unhappy, and that becomes your default state. And then you can carry that into your action, which then becomes flow, because that's slightly more challenging. You're in engagement with people in life, and these things can test you and challenge you, but you flow with it. But if you're not happy, and the ego is telling you all kinds of stories, and then you've got the various egoic emotions going on, forget flow. You're never going to get into flow. You get stuck in a mode of, right, well, I just got to push through this. I've got to kind of grind my way through this. I've got to get through another day. And that's exhausting, not sustainable. It's very tiring. And if people keep doing that often, then they'll have a breakdown. Something will crack. Their health will give way. Relationships, crumble. A crisis happens because what they're doing isn't sustainable. But if you do everything with joy and happiness, it's very sustainable. You can operate in that frequency, and it's because it's self-nurturing. You don't get tired and weary and exhausted when you're happy. So joy is the ultimate energy. Joy will fuel you through your life in a way that nothing else can.
And like you said the other day about having meaning, it's really important, isn't it? Thinking that what you do matters. Because if you have a mundane life where you don't enjoy what you're doing, then you're not present. So you couldn't possibly be joyful or happy.
And then you're in a state of resistance. You don't enjoy what you do. So you're in resistance. Resistance is unhappiness. So you live your life in an unhappy state, and then all the ego can do is give you little scraps and say, well, take that pill, or take the drug, or go shopping, or have sex, or eat a nice meal. And it gives you some kind of illusion of happiness in those things. But, it's not lasting. Once that experience is gone, then you return to your unhappy state. And this is how addictions develop. Because you're not foundationally happy, you seek happiness in a temporary experience, and it gives you a little hit, whatever you do, but it's not lasting. So then you have to get the hits again and again and again. And obviously it's diminishing marginal returns. The more you do it, the less happy you become, until, the addiction isn't actually making you happy anymore at all. It's making you unhappy. It never really did make you happy, but even the temporary, satisfaction or pleasure you got from it starts to wearing off. Mm-hmm. So this is the only way. Hi, Elaine.
Hi.
Hiya.
Oh, hi, Sally. Hi.
This is the only way. Unhappiness is correct. Do the mind correction. Don't listen to the ego story. Okay, so Sally, can you summarize this? Help Elaine just catch up to speed. Can you summarize the first couple of paragraphs so far, please?
If I can have them on the screen, I will.
Yeah, there we go. So what's he saying here?
That our function is our happiness, and to realize we are the same is really important. That we can be in battle with ego and Holy Spirit, obviously, but the Holy Spirit never fights back. It's only our ego that's fighting. It's a one-way battle, because the Holy Spirit knows what happiness is and is guiding us there all the time.
Yeah, so I think it's important to realize it's not really a battle, although the ego will perceive it as such. It's just the Holy Spirit holds to the truth and doesn't acknowledge anything. It just ignores the ego. It says this is ridiculous. I'm not going to listen to this. And the ego will perceive that as take it personally and say, no, how can you not listen to me? And then it attacks. But the Holy Spirit just, no, the attack is of no effect, because the Holy Spirit knows that happiness is the truth. And these attacks by the ego are meaningless. It tells you you don't deserve to be happy, you're not worthy of happiness. You need to, there's better things to do with your time than the happiness. This happiness stuff, no, you don't have time for that. It's got more important business to do. This is what the ego will tell you. And the Holy Spirit just laughs at that, because that's just ridiculous. How insane.
What it reminds me of is I used to have this neighbor that was always looking out for a fight. She always wanted what everyone else had got. And I remember she came round to the front door one day and she wanted to fight with me about a piece of land that was next to my house. And I just said, you want to fight, don't you? And I said, I'm not fighting. And she tried a few times. And I just smiled and I just loved her. And I just said, I'm not fighting. And then she kind of just, like, you could see she was deflated because she had nothing to push against. She never came to my door again. She never fought again, because there was she just, couldn't.
Yeah. So that was an example of, I don't want to fight. I'm just in my happiness, in my peace. There's no point to this conflict. And so the ego always, it requires someone to fight back in order to get its fix of separation. So she would have felt quite challenged by that.
Yeah.
But it may just have given her, something else. There would have been she was exposed there to another thought system, another way of being, which, who knows, maybe that made an impact on her.
She moved house after that.
Did she? So she probably moved somewhere else where she could have a fight, pick a fight with the neighbors. Then she would go, wherever I go, everyone's so difficult. And I always...
That's what she used to say. That's just sad.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Well, what's the common factor? The common factor is you. That's the common factor.
Yeah.
It's funny how blind we can be when we're in ego. You can't see that. Extraordinary, really. Okay. Did you summarize number 2? I think so.
Yeah, I did.
There's no battle. It's a knowing. Right? The Holy Spirit knows what your function is, and it just dismisses the ego's case as nonsense. It's not interested in fighting it. It's just holds to the truth. Okay, so brings us to number 3. Elaine's just disappeared. Okay, so do you want to read number 3? You're back.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was just shutting the door there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I
no
can
problem.
read.
Do you want to read number 3?
Yes. Today we will try to go past this wholly meaningless battle and arrive at the truth about your function. And the same in the alternative. Today we will try to go past this wholly meaningless battle and arrive at the truth about your function.
Yeah.
Go ahead, yeah. Stick in the alternative, shall I?
Yeah, there's just really the belief in separation. The ego becomes belief in separation. It's not a lot to translate, so do the alternative.
Okay. And we will not engage in senseless arguments about what it is. Yeah. We will not become hopelessly involved in defining happiness and determining the means for achieving it. We will not indulge the belief in separation by listening to its attacks on truth. We will merely be glad that we can find out what truth is.
So yeah, any thoughts on that one?
Well, that's
What's he saying in summary there?
Well, we need to go past the battles of the ego, the meaningless battles, before we can get to the truth about our true function.
And this number 3 will not become hopelessly involved in defining happiness, determining the means for achieving it. So this is a favorite ego pursuit. There's been many books written about happiness and defining happiness and the 7 ways to happiness and determine the means for achieving it. And he's saying let's not get involved in that, because all of that makes happiness difficult and seemingly unattainable. Okay. Yeah. So keep it simple. In other words, keep it simple, stupid. Merely be glad we can find out what truth is.
Yeah, rather than all the temptation of the things out in the big wide world or the little world.
Just give me a moment. I'm just going to say goodbye to Deborah.
Yes, of course.
Actually, if you want to continue, I'll just show this.
Yeah.
Just read number 4.
Yeah. My turn, yes.
Sally? Well, Sally can read it.
Oh, Sally's turn. Yeah.
Yeah, Sally can read it.
Our longer practice period today has as its purpose your acceptance of the fact that not only is there a very real connection between the function God gave you and your happiness, but that they are actually identical. Our longer practice period today has at its purpose your acceptance of the fact that not only is there a very real connection between the function, pure formless awareness of perfect love gave you and your happiness, but that they are actually identical. God gives you only happiness. Pure formless awareness of perfect love gives you only happiness. Therefore, the function he gave you must be happiness, even if it appears to be different. Therefore, the function it gave you must be happiness, even if it appears to be different. Today's exercises are an attempt to go beyond these differences in appearance and recognize a common content where it exists in truth. Same thing in the alternative. Yeah.
So it's all about practice.
Sorry?
All about practice, yeah.
Yeah, I guess so, isn't it? This really heightens it. It really breaks it down into details, doesn't it?
It does. It does. Well, last night, John and Jono were going into a great deal of depth, getting past my bedtime because I had work. And yeah, even one sentence, it's amazing how much you can really unpick at. I think one sentence took about half an hour.
Yeah.
I had to slip away.
Going through all your old thought patterns, aren't you? Kind of unraveling.
Yes.
But it's
kind of interesting.
In some ways it's obvious, but in another way I can feel some resistance in me.
Yes. Oh, me too. Yes, me too.
Yeah, I know, the function is to be happy, yes, but But
yes, it's that ego. It's so persistent. It is, yes. And watching my husband's as well, you know, and he is suffering because obviously he's now got health problems in his memory and so forth. And poor soul, I shouldn't really say poor soul because we're not allowed to look at them like that, are we? Because he's our son of God. But he's suffering so much because he's never done any spiritual work whatsoever. So all I do is just now, rather than resist it and feel sorry for him, I just say, do you want a hug? You know, and that's it really, just keeping it simple.
Yeah, before you came on, I was talking about how seeing others happy if I'm seeing people unhappy, it shows there's parts of me that are not happy.
Yeah, yes, that's right.
Parts of us poorly. Yeah.
Yeah, because I used to find that too. I think, what? You mean I'm like my husband? And now, yes, I'm beginning to see. Yeah, and now that I'm approaching it in a different manner, I'm not getting quite so much confrontation. So there we go. There is, you know, some progress.
Yeah. So your inner aspects are less, they're fighting less.
Yeah. Fighting less. Yeah. So that's good. So practice.
But when you're living with somebody like that, it's really good practice, isn't it? Because you've got you in the flat or house with you all the time.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Living with a special partner at the moment, but it's like, it's quite intense when you do that.
Is it somebody you've just met?
I've met somebody recently, but in the house.
That's nice.
I don't have. Yeah.
Well, that's nice. That's another sort of, that's obviously been brought in for you.
Yeah.
In this, you know, state of consciousness that you're in. Is he similar? Does he do similar sort of work?
Yeah. Yeah. Very deep.
Oh, right. Well, that could be classed as what I think is called a holy relationship. If you've got two that are in one mind, then that's the idea, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
But you know,
did you meet? Sorry,
I was just going to say, sharing a house with others that are not that you're not in a special relationship with is so much easier to distance yourself in the relationships. You know, when you've you just go in the other room, can't you? But when you're living like you are, it's more intense, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But like I say, it's a big learning lesson, big. But I'm starting to see things differently. I'm getting there, but I still need my magic.
Yeah.
Well, you know, if I've got a bit of a headache this morning, and I've tried for many, many years of different potions and this and the other and supplements and even anti-inflammatories, and nothing worked, nothing. And then all of a sudden I've just come across this. Looks like it's a beer.
Yeah.
Because your friend Sally has the problem with her headache, doesn't she? Kombucha.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're wondering, is she sitting drinking beer? A bit of kombucha. And it does seem to help. Don't ask me why. Do you think it's a placebo? Or I have no idea.
I always think it's placebo, but then if placebo, you have to do it, don't you? If you've got no other way of letting go of the pain, then, you know, you do it, don't you?
Yes. So but for many, many years, I've tried various things, Feverfew, and I can't, is it possible that this could work? I don't get it. So I'm now starting to think, it's placebo, power of the mind, maybe. Gosh, I have no idea. It's quite incredible.
What I find, as soon as you accept it's placebo, it can kill the effects of it. So it's probably best.
Oh, yes. That's right. Yes. So, but yes, whether it's placebo or not, it seems to be working.
Good.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Mm.
So Jono's saying cheerio to his love,
his
holy love, his holy relationship.
Mm.
That's sweet.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, there's quite a few holy relationships striking up.
Are there?
There's the Circle of Atonement.
Oh, yeah.
Robert Perry and Emily, and they do some good work. They do, actually. I resonate with a lot of his commentaries. And he's met up with Emily, the other lady that does the talks, and they've now got married.
Oh, have they? Oh,
yeah. And they look like young love. How lovely is that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're not strictly dualistic. They have a little bit of dual in it in their teachings, but I'm not bothered really which way it works, as long as it's the voice is coming from the Holy Spirit. It doesn't really matter how it comes, it's what resonates with you, doesn't it? But there's those two. There's John and Annie. They met not so long ago, and they're in their 70s. Do you know John and Annie Campbell?
Yeah.
They're a nice couple. There's quite a few actually. So watch this space.
It's good to hear that there are some, because for a while there I didn't see any, and I was like saying,
no, but they're coming.
To another Course in Miracles teacher that I knew a few years ago, and I was saying, show me some holy relationships. I want to see. I don't know what it's.
Oh, they're popping up. They are definitely popping up. So that's nice. Yeah,
I need to see
my holy relationships with animals.
Yeah, well, I was thinking that while you were talking.
Yeah, that's where I get my real essence, without a doubt. It's not without its heartache though, because not all of them survive, but you do your best, don't you?
Yeah.
We all,
I think mine is with the housemates. We've all got a holy relationship, and in my work, I suppose, with my clients.
Yes. Yeah. So that's the purpose, you see.
Yeah, and it does.
Sorry.
It does feel good, like the passage says. It's one, isn't it? When you're at one, you're happy.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then it's just clearing those other areas that don't.
Yeah, the insecurities and the usual judging. Judging is the big one, isn't it? Because that's a big topic. It's not just judging others, you're just judging everything. What you're going to have for your dinner, everything.
And judging those people that are judging,
Yes.
Really judgmental, but then you're being judgmental that they're judgmental.
Yes. That's a real big one, that one. So, work in progress. Yeah.
Earlier on, Jono said resistance is unhappiness. I'd never heard it said like that before.
Ah, right.
Because all my work is about helping people release their resistance.
So, yeah. That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good phrase.
So many good phrases. So many little things that you go, yeah.
Yes.
Ego.
I hear a lot of them on this course, and from the students as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's certain things people are saying, you go, yes. So there's a lot of those yeses.
Loads, aren't there? Every call. Like ego. Yeah. Ego equals unhappiness. And happiness is only truth. I keep writing them down. Never go back.
Yeah.
But they're all
a good idea. That's a good idea to write them down, because then you'll think to yourself, oh, what was that really made me feel at one, and then I've forgotten. So I'm going to, that's a good idea. Yeah. Oh, hello, Jono.
Oh, yeah, I'm back. Sorry.
Yeah.
So where did you get up to? Number 4?
Yeah, we talked it all out. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Number 4.
Pure formless awareness, perfect light gives you only happiness. The function it gave you must be happiness, even if it appears to be different. It's such a simple, straightforward lesson, but it's a revolution for many people to just have it this explicitly said, that your only function is happiness. Quite extraordinary that something so obvious could be so obscure to so many people. So your function is your happiness. Okay, so next ideas, and then he goes into some logic, which is quite good. So let's have a look at this. Whose turn is it to read?
I think it's mine now, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so begin the 10 to 15 minute practice period by reviewing these thoughts. God gives me only happiness. And 3, he has given me my function to me. He has given my function to me. 4, therefore my function must be happiness. Alternatively, 2, pure formless awareness of perfect love gives me only happiness. 3, it has given me my function. And 4, therefore my function must be happiness.
Yeah, so you see the logic. If pure formless awareness of perfect love, my source, gives me only happiness, and it has given me my function, and my function must be happiness. My source gives me only happiness, it has given me my function, so my function must be happiness. So it's pretty logical. So he says, try to see the logic, even if you don't accept the conclusion yet. It's only if the first 2 thoughts are wrong that the conclusion could be false. So then he says, let us look at the premises for a while as we're practicing. So the premises are the fundamental assumptions, statements. So these are the premises on which our happiness is based. Okay, so let's look at that. Number 6. The first premise. Who wants to read that?
First premise is that God gives you only happiness. The first premise is that pure formless awareness of perfect love gives you only happiness. This could be false, of course, but in order to be false, it is necessary to define God as something he is not. This could be a false, of course, but in order to be false, it is necessary to define pure formless awareness of perfect love as something it is not. Love cannot give evil, and what is not happiness is evil. Blimey. Perfect love cannot give evil, but what is not happiness is evil. Okay. God cannot give what he does not have, and he cannot have what he is not. Pure formless awareness of perfect love cannot give what it does not have, and it cannot have what it is not. Unless God gives you only happiness, he must be evil. Every time it says evil, it's like, whew. Unless pure formless awareness of perfect love gives you only happiness, it must be evil. And it is this definition of him you are believing if you do not accept the first premise. And it is this definition of it you are believing if you do not accept the first premise. Okay, anything that's not happiness is evil. Okay.
Remember, evil is to live backwards. You know? Just live spelled backwards. So to be evil is just an upside down life. It's living an unhappy life when we're supposed to be happy. So if you think that God created the world, and God's responsible for all of us, then you're defining God as evil. You're saying pure formless awareness of perfect love is evil. Well, that's nonsensical. If you translate God to pure formless awareness of perfect love, the logic becomes inescapably clear, doesn't it? Well, yes, pure formless awareness of perfect love gives you only happiness. That awareness gives you only happiness. So, any other awareness is simply not that awareness. It's not of God. It's not the same. It's a delusion. So the first premise, God or pure formless awareness of perfect love gives me only happiness. Saying, well, yes. And I think if you translate it, that becomes obvious. Yes, pure formless awareness of perfect love can only give you happiness. Anything else, and it wouldn't be pure formless awareness of perfect love, would it anymore? So it's self-evidently true that. Okay, so you want to summarize that one, Sally? What's he saying in summary?
That not being happy is evil.
When it's not happiness is evil.
No,
and if you look at evil as being to live your life backwards, well, yeah, to be unhappy is to live your life backwards. That's evil. Living your life backwards.
And that pure formless awareness of perfect love can only give you happiness.
Yeah.
You can't give something that it's not.
You see the benefit of translating here. When you have a translation of God as pure formless awareness of perfect love, then it's obvious. Well, yes, of course, pure formless awareness of perfect love can't give you anything but happiness, because it wouldn't be possible. It wouldn't be pure formless awareness of perfect love then. It would be something else. If there's any other awareness, then it's not pure formless awareness of perfect love. So it's not God. And so, our difficulty is in trying to understand, well, how did this other awareness that's not pure formless awareness of perfect love, how did that come about then? If really, there's only pure formless awareness of perfect love and there's only happiness as a result of it. How does evil, how is it possible that there could be evil? And that's the question. And remember, Yeshua answers it by saying, well, there's no logical answer. There's only an experience. When you experience this pure formless awareness of perfect love, and you experience the happiness it brings you without opposite, then you know that there is a state that is only happiness. You know it experientially. And then the logic isn't important because you just know it. And you know that everything that makes you unhappy must be a delusion. Just cannot be true then. So he's trying to get us to see again that the logic of the Holy Spirit is inevitable and flawless, and therefore anything else, any other awareness must simply be unreal. That's the answer. It's simply not. It's non-existent. What makes you unhappy is non-existent. So evil doesn't really exist. What makes you unhappy doesn't really exist. There is only pure formless awareness of perfect love that gives you only happiness. Full stop, end of. And that's all the Holy Spirit knows and reminds you continuously. So don't focus on what makes you unhappy, because that's to focus on what is non-existent. And then experience this non-existent state of unhappiness. You might, next time the ego comes calling you, finding yourself unhappy, remind yourself that this doesn't exist. That unhappiness is a non-existent state. So I'm in a non-existent state right now, which is why it feels awful. Because you've just gone into non-existence again. Your mind's telling you that you don't truly exist, but actually you do. Your existence lies in pure formless awareness of perfect love and in the happiness you experience as a result of it. And that's the end of it. Full stop. Okay, so pardon the pun, happy with that?
Yes, thank you.
First premise, okay. Second premise. Elaine?
Yeah. The second premise is that God has given you your function. And the alternative, the second premise is the pure formless awareness of perfect love has given you your function. Yeah. And 2, we have seen that, is it the same as it? We have seen that there are only 2 parts of your mind. And 3, one is ruled by the belief in separation and is made up of illusions. Once it's just the ego is the different bit. And the other is the home of the Holy Spirit where truth abides. And the other is the home of the pure formless awareness of perfect love where truth abides.
Take that. So remembrance brings perfect love where truth abides. Where truth abides is quite old-fashioned. Loves where truth lives.
And there are no other guides but these to choose between, and no other outcomes possible as a result of your choice, but the fear that the belief in separation always engenders, and the love, the remembrance, that the remembrance of perfect love always offers to replace it.
Okay, so
yeah. Well,
any thoughts on that? What's he saying in the?
Well, there's 2 parts to there's 2 parts to your mind. There's the belief in separation made up of illusions, and then the other is the remembrance of perfect love where truth lives. And there are no other guides but these to choose between. And the outcomes, but yeah. One engenders a lot of fear and the other one engenders love.
Well, they're very simple, very, very simple, clear teaching, and just asking us to accept only the right part of us.
Mm-hmm.
No other choices, no other outcomes possible. So we must choose. We have a split mind. We must choose correctly. If we choose correctly, then the split ends. If we don't, keep choosing the ego, then the split is maintained, and there's no healing. Our mind remains in a split state, and there's no peace. There's no happiness. Certainly consistent happiness, because you've always got the negative, the ego coming in to sabotage your happiness. And where you come, if you have a split mind, then this is where you come, to this world. People with split minds come here. People with healed minds don't come here. Why would you come to such an insane place when you realize that insanity is not real? So this world is the compromise. This world is an attempt to have your separate identity, and also still have some kind of connection with source. Because the ego can't accept total evil. There's some good, but it's not only good. So it's a kind of compromise. Well, I can be a separate self, but I can still be a good separate self. And we come here and we try and live out these so-called good lives in our separate self, and it doesn't really work. And we feel the contradiction all the time. And true happiness, authentic, consistent happiness is elusive. Because that split in our minds will continuously come up and cause us unhappiness. And this is the only way of resolving it. This, letting go completely of the split in the mind, of the other awareness, the other self, the ego, is the only way to heal your mind and experience this true happiness. So you want to be happy, let go. It's as simple as that. Happiness comes from letting go, and unhappiness comes when you don't let go. Couldn't really be clearer, but we need to be reminded often. So it's very easy to forget that and hold on and make ourselves unhappy. Okay, so happy with that paragraph. Any other questions or comments on that one? The second premise, that pure formless awareness of perfect love has given you your function. So this is an acknowledgement that our function must come from our source. If this is the source of our mind, our true awareness, then our function must come from that. It's logical. Our source gives us our function. So any other idea, any other function, it must be illusory. It's coming from another part of my mind that is not my source, that is illusory. And I must determine the difference between them in order to make any kind of conscious, rational decisions. Okay, so thus it must be. Number 8. And Sally's on the move, so you're going to sit there. Sally, do you want to? Whose turn is it?
Sally. I can do it. Yeah, I was just relocating. Jackie's just about to join us.
Okay.
Number 8. Thus it must be that your function is established by God through his voice, or is made by the ego, which you have made to replace him. Thus it must be that your function is established by pure formless awareness of perfect love through its voice, or it is made by the belief in separation, which you have made to replace it. Let's read that again. Thus it must be that your function is established by pure formless awareness of perfect love through its voice. Through its voice? What does it mean through its voice, Bet?
Through its voice? Well, its voice is the Holy Spirit. So the Holy Spirit gives us our function. It says your function is to be happy.
So by saying through its voice, it's saying that the Holy Spirit is going to give us our function by just guiding us.
Because remember, happiness is not in pure formless awareness of perfect love. In level 1, if we have a look at this, will do for level 1. In this awareness, happiness is not a factor, is it? I just am. I'm in pure formless awareness. There's no idea of your function is to be happy. That the idea of a function is only meaningful in level 2 on the timeline.
Yeah,
in the illusion.
Yeah,
that so we have some kind of function. What's our function and our meaning? In pure formless awareness, there's no question of a function. You just are what you are. And all ideas of function and purpose and meaning are irrelevant, because you just are in pure formless awareness of perfect love, and that's all there is. So it's given to us by the Holy Spirit, or the remembrance of perfect love, that interprets this. It takes the pure formless awareness and brings it into our life situation, and tells us, okay, your only function in this life, in this illusory dream life that you're having, is to be happy, because that happiness is a reflection of pure formless awareness of perfect love in this world.
Yeah, okay, so we've only got access to it through the Holy Spirit, through the blue arrows, because we're not actually in that pure oneness, right? So the only access through there,
Yeah. Well, it's self-evident. I mean, if you still think you have a body and you're aware of form, then you're not in pure formless awareness, because there's form in your awareness, you see. but you have access to it via this voice that reminds you of that state that is transcendent of the body and the world and form. And then that says, well, your function here is to be happy, because that happiness is a reflection, a pale reflection, but it's a connection to this state of pure formless awareness of perfect love in heaven. So our happiness here is a reflection of the state of pure formless awareness of perfect love in heaven. And so the only way we're going to find our way back there is to start accessing the reflection and living more and more in that, because that is what guides us back ultimately into this state of pure formless awareness of perfect love. So happiness is like it's like the warm-up. If you think of it in sexual terms, it's like the foreplay. Happiness is the foreplay, and this is the orgasm. To put it in yeah, but that kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, so we're kind of warming up here. It's not the absolute reality of what it is, but it's the warm-up. And the warm-up can be quite enjoyable. It can be really, really nice. We've all had sex before. Foreplay can be very nice. So this is like the foreplay to the eternal, orgasmic experience of pure formless awareness of perfect love. And that's quite pleasant. It can be a happy dream.
I was going to say something else, but with your sexual innuendos and stuff, it's thrown me. What I was going to say was, it's like reverse reflection. Like normally, I look in the ego world to see what's reflecting back, so I know what I've got to let go of. But this is like reflecting in the other way. It's like
it's coming from. This is why it's a double-sided arrow. So it's coming down from pure formless awareness into your life experience. And the happiness is a sign. The more you open that channel, the more you're aware of that blue arrow, the more open your channel, the happier you're going to be, because the more pure formless awareness is flowing through into your awareness and into your life.
Yeah.
So happiness comes from, is a direct derivative of this. And if you close that channel off, and you listen to the ego, then forget happiness. You can't be happy because you closed off the channel to the source of happiness. It's quite interesting looking at it visually, because you see very clearly. And so your job is to transcend. If you seem to be stuck in an unhappy dream and your perceptions are unhappy, your job is to go back into this awareness. Let go of these, because recognizing they're not real, and allow this awareness to come back into your mind. And then from that awareness, you perceive the situation differently. So that's how this streams through into your perception. And then perceptually, you feel much happier, because you just accessed the source of that of happiness, and you allowed it to come through. Does that make sense? Hi, Jackie. How are you?
Hi, Johnny.
Welcome back to the Zoom room. So,
where was I? Number 2, which is true. Unless God gave your function to you, it must be the gift of the ego. Unless pure formless awareness of perfect love gave your function to you, it must be the gift of the belief in separation. Does the ego really have gifts to give, being itself an illusion and offering only the illusions of gifts? Does this belief really have gifts to give, because being itself an illusion and offering only the illusion of gifts? Okay. Yeah.
So there's only 2 choices. If you think your function is given by the ego, then you have to content yourself with the gifts of the ego. And what are those gifts? It'll give you toys, money, special relationships. It'll tell you, you know, there are various things external to you that will make you happy. These are its gifts. But he's saying these will fail you. So the illusion of gifts is just that, an illusion, and none of them will replace this pure formless awareness of perfect love. So nothing that the ego has made, nothing that can come in form that you experience on the timeline can replace this. That's the teaching. This is the source of your happiness, and nothing else will substitute. The ego is always trying to substitute and say, no, there's something else that'll work. These are the illusions. So we try all these different ways, and we find that they don't work. Eventually, that means that we have to return our minds back to this awareness, pure formless awareness of perfect love, if we want to be happy. And that's the spiritual journey. You say, no, I've tried all the ego's ways, and none of it's worked. So maybe I need to let go of all of that and accept the simple truth that only God, or pure formless awareness of perfect love, will make me happy. And then a spiritual path and a spiritual way of living becomes the only choice. Well, that's the only way I'm ever going to experience happiness. So it's not really optional.
I've got something coming up as you're talking. So I feel a desire to have a couple more people on my year course. And although I can see that would be egoic from the point of view, I really enjoy it when there's more people on the course and there's more interaction on the course. But also it feels very guided and very very perfect how it unfolds. But I was just trying to work out, am I slipping into ego by thinking it would be lovely to have a couple more people on there? You know, there's a kind of a bit of a grey area there for me. Although it's guided, I'm guided to contact the people to join. But there's a need in me, or a belief that more interaction would make me happier.
Yeah.
More inspired conversation would make me happier.
But you see the subtlety of it, because you're saying that by that desire that I'm not quite happy now. I'm not fully happy now. So there's a separation from my source. I'm saying, well, you know, if that future situation should happen, then I would be happier. And that's how the ego works.
Is it egoic, or is it a desire to serve?
Well, that's what you gotta, you gotta be aware. Where is it coming from? If it makes you unhappy in the slightest, the thought that it would be nice to have more people. Okay, but in that present state, it would be nice to have more people. I'm stating a lack. Oh, I don't have the implication is I don't have enough people now.
It doesn't quite feel a lack, but it feels like there would be some feeding of me, some like being fed or nourished more by more souls interacting. It's like a knowing in me that there are a couple more due to join the group. So I often sense that, but sometimes they don't always join because they've got their own resistance. But is that a lack? I don't know. It's more like a knowing that there's a space I'm holding for them and they're not necessarily filling it right now. Yeah, it's very fine. I can't quite see it.
No, it's subtle. But notice that, you know, any desire whatsoever takes you out of pure formless awareness of perfect love.
Yeah, it does.
See that?
Yeah, it does. I can feel
as subtle as it is, because you're saying it's not okay as it is now. You know, I'll be in a better state if this happens in future. So there's a subtle denial there of the truth that you're actually already okay. You're already in pure formless awareness of perfect love. And nothing needs to be done. Nothing can be added or taken away from that. It's whole and complete right now.
Yeah.
And so this is why the Buddha noticed, and he said, you know, desire is the source of all suffering. Because when you desire anything, even, oh, well, I just, you know, I'm doing the will of God. These are more people on my course. you are really putting yourself in a state where you're not fully in pure formless awareness or perfect love. Not saying everything's absolutely fine as it is right now, nothing needs to change because I'm just rooted in my true awareness and that's it. No, now in my mind, I've set up a condition where if that happens in future, I would be happier. Which, how can you be happier than what's everything? Pure formless awareness of perfect love is everything. How can you be more than everything?
Yeah.
And that's delusional. See, this is the delusional thought system of the ego. Actually, the truth is you can only be less than everything. You can't be more than it. Because everything is everything. Infinity is infinity.
Yeah, got it.
Eternity is eternity. So it's quite subtle. It's a subtle fetter, see?
But it's making sure that I follow the Holy Spirit nudges and do as I am instructed to do.
Yeah, but without desire. You see, you can do it without desire.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So the ego is going to say, oh no, well, if you didn't have a desire, why would you do anything? Desire is what motivates your actions. And the Holy Spirit says, no, just listen to my guidance. You don't need desire. I'll just give you the guidance. I'll tell you what to do when you need to do it. Just follow instructions and do it in the state of flow where there's no desire. It's like, okay, well, that's what I feel like I should do. That's what I'll do. I'll reach out to those people, or I'll run a seminar or webinar or, whatever, because that's the prompting without attachment to outcome. That's the interesting thing. So you're doing it, and even though that may bring more people in, you're not attached to the outcome either way. If they join or they don't join, you just did the will of God. You followed the guidance, and that's what you were supposed to do. And then because you don't know what that could lead to. In your mind, you might go, oh, well, I'm doing this because I want to get the 2 people on my course, but actually it could be for an entirely different reason. They may or may not join your course as a result, but actually that action could lead to a whole set of other, consequences that you couldn't foresee.
Yeah.
And the Holy Spirit might have told you to do it for another reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's an interesting, can you be fully happy in pure formless awareness of perfect love and then still take action and do things, on the level of form? And the ego is going to tell you not, but the Holy Spirit's telling you, yes, absolutely. In fact, that's the most effective way of taking action, because you don't have any conditioning, you don't have any programming, you have no expectations, you have no desires, you can't be disappointed. You just follow the guidance. Okay, do this, just do it. The Nike sayings are beautiful. Just do it. Just do it. You do it in a state of acceptance. There's a loving awareness that comes through. You're flowing with it because there's no expectation. Yeah, I'm just doing what I'm called to do. I'm listening to the instructions.
I am.
So simple. Yeah, without desire. See, Sally and Sally's personal desires don't need to come into it.
No.
That's the learning. And the ego is always going to try and come in with desire. Oh, you desire that. And then subtly, if you desire, you're not quite enough now because, in future, when the desire is met, then I'll be more. And so subtly, you've disconnected yourself from your source.
Is it still desire then if you say it would be fun if?
Still taking you out of the now, isn't it? What does that do? It would be fun if, now I'm going outside of my current experience into a future experience. Which, doesn't exist. The future is not real.
So that's old conditioning then. So I'm taking an old condition from the past where I've known that I've really enjoyed something. And then I think, it'd be really nice to do that again. Yeah. All right. I'm not in the now. Yeah. Okay.
And so that conditioning, see, part of the challenge of this is also to undo the so-called good stuff. Oh, well, that worked for me in the past. So I'll run that program again and I'll be happy. And this teaching is saying, no, just be happy with what you have right now. Because what you have right now is everything. You have pure formless awareness of perfect love. What more could you want? And that's available to you right now, and it's available at every moment. So you don't need to go, if this happens, when this happens in the future. You don't need to indulge in it, because all of that keeps the idea of time going and the timeline going, doesn't it? Now I'm in a future consciousness. Well, there's no future in eternity, just now. So subtly, I've taken myself away from pure formless awareness and this eternal now moment, and I'm now in a future illusory reality.
Yeah.
Very subtle, but if you want full awakening, then you have to recognize the subtlety of it.
Yeah, that's really
Say
good.
no.
Yeah, that's really, really good, because then there must be a very slight, subtle discomfort in the now. That there's not enough stimulation for me in that group. Yeah, so I'm looking for more stimulation. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Whereas if I'm fully present now, just as it is, there's no dissatisfaction coming in, then that energy is going to go through to the group, and it's going to be a better experience for everyone, and more powerful for you, because you're bringing people then into that experience. You are the leader. You bring them into that. Yes, I'm totally happy and contented now. There's nothing else. There's nothing needs to change. They experience that. You're giving them access to this pure formless awareness of perfect love, which is the whole point. That's the only reason why you're running the group, is to give them greater access to that through the group and your teaching.
Yeah, that's really perfect. Yeah. Yeah, got it.
So it's subtle, and you got to watch yourself, because it's very easy to go, oh, okay, I'm doing this because I want an outcome. Yeah, I'm going to Cape Town. We're going to do a talk. The temptation is, I'm doing it because I want an outcome on the level of form. Yes, I want some people to join the program, but I have to remind myself, no, it's not about that. I'm going because I listen to the guidance. Who knows why I'm going? Yeah, I listen to the guidance. Should I go? The guidance is clear. Yes, go. Okay, I listen to the guidance. I'm going because the Holy Spirit told me to go. That's why I'm going. And then the experiences will flow from that, and the outcomes will be what they will be, without my expectation or desire. It'll be what it will be. And you just have to remind yourself of that continuously. Because as soon as an expectation of an outcome comes in, you subtly moved out of the now, and you set yourself up for suffering. Because then the expectation is not met, and you go, oh, well, I was expecting more. Now I'm disappointed. And now I'm not happy anymore. When actually nothing's changed, you still have pure formless awareness of perfect love. The outcome doesn't affect that in any way, shape, or form. And it was a success because you did the will of God. You followed the guidance and you did what you were asked to do. So
it can be quite uncomfortable to do something with no parameters, no expectation. The other day, we had a small group here, and I didn't know why we were meeting, and invited some random people, and it felt a little bit uncomfortable not knowing what the reasoning behind it was. So I can see why it's easy to slip into a slight expectation, because it's an old container, an old box, just like, oh, I've done this before. I know we're running a group of this for this, rather than going, I'm absolutely open to what unfolds. It's subtle, but I can see it clearer now.
It's subtle, but it's profound. If you can live this way, then you're truly doing the will of God. So no conditioning, no expectations from the past. None of Sally's conditioning comes in. Then you are totally open, right? So you're just being guided by the Holy Spirit moment by moment. You're totally miracle minded. Then expect miracles. You wouldn't expect miracles, but you know what I mean. You would just be in a state of, I'm miracle minded, and miracles just happen. I think Yeshua did his miracles in that way, and I'm certain of it. They wouldn't have had. Imagine if he'd expected. He's showing up. He's like, oh, well, the pressure's on. Everyone expects a miracle now. I mean, that's going to put him out of a miracle-minded state straight away, isn't it? Everyone's like waiting. The crowds are here. Oh, I've got to manifest some fishes and loaves today. Wow, how am I going to do that?
Yeah,
it wouldn't have happened, with that kind of pressure. So he wasn't in that state of mind. It was just like he shows up, he's completely tapped into the guidance, and he does what's guided. Now, I don't think he even knew how he did that. It just happened. Because he's totally trusting. He's like, okay, well, I've been told to show up here today. I'm doing the teaching. People need food, so okay, And then the Holy Spirit would give him the guidance and say, "Well, break the fishes and the loaves." And I think it was just completely guided the whole way. There was no conscious planning or intention on his part, which must have been quite interesting to live with. I think his disciples had a challenge sometimes. They're like, well, we don't know what he's doing next, because he doesn't know what he's doing next. It's just spontaneously arises. And then you go, oh, okay, we're going to Galilee now, because that's what the Holy Spirit tells them. Okay, they didn't plan that. It was just like in the moment, that's what we should do. So, that's what we should do. So it's a very different way of living. It's a total flowing, guided, intuitive way of living, which is not what we're used to doing. It's not how we the egos guided our life up to this point.
I've heard another interpretation of the loaves and the fishes story that came from Eric Butterworth of the Unity Church, which is kind of a bridge, I think, between Christianity and this sort of teaching. And he said it's perfectly feasible that somebody locally who'd heard about Jesus, who had plenty of money or whatever, brought the loaves and the fishes. They could have turned up on camels or what have you, and then there was this sort of abundance of food there. It didn't necessarily have to do what seems impossible, and the loaves literally multiplied in front of everyone's eyes. And I find that quite believable, more believable, really, because it would have been the intention and the guidance and what have you. But,
yeah, who knows? We don't know. No eyewitnesses, and obviously once you're in that miracle-minded, in the miraculous genre, the writers of it, they're gonna write it. They're not gonna dumb it down. They're trying to big it up. They're not going to say, oh, well, actually, that wasn't really a miracle because some guy just brought in the food. They're gonna make it into a miracle because that builds the whole story. They're trying to promote this. Remember, to the world. So the Gospels were written from a perspective of trying to attract people into this new faith. So and Jesus was the guy. They're not going to say, oh, well, in that instance, he didn't really do a miracle. Because you're not going to do that, are you? You're going to big him up and say, "Oh, no, no." You can
still call it a miracle, can't you? I mean, it's the intention was there, and the food arrived.
Yeah. If the food arrived and it came, it does it matter how it came? Not necessarily.
No.
So, yeah, what was needed was provided, and then it would have been recorded, by. Other people who weren't necessarily there, and they have their own interpretation of that. Well, so we don't know for sure if he did all the miracles. I believe he did some of them.
Yeah.
Certainly the healing sounds, and the resurrecting, that sounds like some of them you're like, well, maybe not. You don't know. It could have been easily written in, and written in a way.
And they were, adapted from, I think it was the Gospel of Mark was the key one that the others borrowed from, so it was the same source.
Yeah, and they were written anything from 50 to 100 years after Yeshua lived. So that's quite a long time. And if you can imagine it, oral tradition, people telling the story. If you're a good storyteller, you want to make the story a good one, don't you? So you embellish it. You just forget the detail of some merchants. We'll just ignore that bit, and we'll just say that Yeshua did it. Because it's a better story, and then that becomes the truth, and then that gets written down. So there's probably quite a bit of that, but nevertheless, the way he lived his life was miraculous. The effects he had on people, transformational effects. Clearly he was in an extraordinary state of mind and consciousness, and that's transmitted. It's the reason why we have his teaching today.
We have so many healers these days as well. So there's nothing to make you think that the healing he did wasn't as described, and that people didn't suddenly miraculously get better, because it happened.
And
And
I think there was so much faith in those days. They didn't have the whole medical model we have now. They really had nothing else. There was no other system that they relied on. So they had, the legend of him being the Messiah and a healer. The word got around, and so people believed. They really believed. They would show up in a state of believing, like, okay, I just need to find this guy and he'll touch me and I'll be healed. And they had so much belief that that's what worked. He even said, the lady who touched his cloak and then she healed of some blood disease she'd had for 30 years. He said, it's your faith that's made you well. It's your own belief that's made you well. He stated it explicitly. Because you believed so much in me, that belief in your mind is what made it happen. Her mind did it. So he actually did nothing. She just touched him, and because of her own belief, she was healed. Other instances like healing of the lepers, or maybe he did. There was something coming from him. There was a healing energy being transmitted. We don't know, but I think he must have just been totally guided. And just say, okay, I'm just moment by moment, I'm listening to the guidance, and there's no pressure on me then because I'm not doing it. If it was him, imagine the personal pressure. Oh, everyone's expecting a miracle now, and I've got to show up and I've got to do it. It would be a nightmare. And then he wouldn't do it. He was just tapping in and just listening intuitive to the voice of the Holy Spirit, and it told him what to do and where to go, and the miracles just showed up and happened. And he gave thanks for them. And did he know even how they happened? How would he have known how to turn water into wine? Would he have known that? Maybe it just happened. And it probably didn't even know how it happened. And we speculate. We can't possibly know, can we? It's like these kinds of things are beyond. They're beyond any kind of science. So you can only speculate as to his state of mind. But it would be absolutely fascinating to have a conversation with him. Say, like, how did you actually, like, what state of mind were you in? When these things happen, what state of mind were you in? How did it actually happen? I guess he's given us a whole course in mind training, so it's all there. He's telling us how he did that. So just follow this guidance, and you too can be in a miraculous state of mind. You shall do these things and even greater things than I have done, he said. Okay, so happy with number 8?
Yeah.
Let's move on to number 9. Think about this during the longer practice period today. Who wants to? Jackie, do you want to read number 9?
Okay.
Think about this during the longer practice period today. Think also about the many forms the illusion of your function has taken in your mind, and the many ways in which you tried to find awakening under the belief in separation's guidance. Did you find it? Were you happy? Did they bring you peace? We need great honesty today. Remember the outcomes fairly, and consider also whether it was ever reasonable to expect happiness from anything the belief in separation ever proposed. Yet the belief in separation is the only alternative to the remembrance of God.
So he's asking us to be, very honest. Did the ego ever bring us happiness? Did anything we do in the ego, did any of that ever work? And if we're honest, we'll see that it didn't. Were we really happy? Did it bring us peace? No. Remember the outcomes fairly. Consider also whether it was ever reasonable to expect happiness from anything the belief in separation ever proposed. If you look honestly in reflection on your life, you go, well, yeah, how could I have actually expected to be happy if I followed that guidance? At the time, maybe I thought I would, but clearly I was mistaken because I wasn't happy. And how could I have ever been happy? Is it actually, was it realistic to expect happiness from that belief system?
Mhm.
Okay. Happy with that. So next one. You will listen to madness or hear the truth. Elaine, will you read that for us?
Yeah. In the alternative or both?
Yeah, both. We've got God himself. The first couple not, but when we get to for God himself shares with us, then just translate that.
Right. You will listen to madness or hear the truth. And that's the same. You will listen to madness or hear the truth. Yeah. And 2, try to make this choice as you think about the premises on which our conclusion rests. And the same. Try to make this choice as you think about the premises on which our conclusion rests. Try to make premises. What's the premises again? Forgotten.
The premises are these assumptions. We looked at the pure form. These are these 3.
Oh yes, yeah, right.
Pure formless awareness of perfect love gives me only happiness. It has given me my function, therefore my function must be happiness. So that's like a logical outcome. Number 3 is logical if the first 2 are true. So those first 2 are the premises on which the idea that my function must be happiness is based.
Yeah.
So in many ways, this is a course in logic. It's a course in absolute logic. Just this kind of uncompromising logic will take you into truth.
The truth. Yeah, that's good. And
so then he says, you will listen to madness or hear the truth.
Yeah, so we can share in this conclusion, but in no other. And for God himself shares it with us. For pure formless awareness, perfect love itself shares it with us. And today's idea is another giant stride in the perception of the same as the same and the different as different. And on one side stand illusions, and all truth stands on the other. Let us try today to realize that only the truth is true.
Only the truth is true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and all illusions is untrue. Yeah.
Okay, so what's he saying here in summary? In that paragraph.
We listen to the madness, or we hear the truth. Well, all truth stands on the other side. And today, to realize that only the truth is true. So we need to put all the madness to one side and find the logic, which is the truth. follow those premises that you mentioned.
Mm. Mm.
Just follow those, and there you are.
Now, again, asking us to make a clear distinction between these thought systems. Realize that happiness, truth, source, God, pure formless awareness, and perfect love, it's all the same. It comes from one thought system. In that thought system, our happiness is our function, and that's all that's true. And the other one, which gives us the opposite and all the unhappiness, just then cannot be true. So if it's not true, why believe in it? Why honor it in any way, shape, or form when it's not true?
That's the logic. But of course, undoing is, we're always getting temptations, aren't we? Lots of temptations.
But if you hold to this logic, then that's your salvation.
Oh yeah. No, I can see it.
Because you go, well, actually, only happiness is my function, so I can choose happiness even in the situation where I've been tempted. That I must hold to the truth and nothing else.
Yeah, and just listen to that Holy Spirit's advice. Once you clear all the dark clouds and the madness, and the past and the future. I'm making it complicated now, so I'll quit.
Well, it's all part of it. Letting go. See, letting go leads you to the happy state. So letting go it leads you to happiness, and happiness, letting go is your function, as is the happiness that it leads to. It's all bound up. So letting go clears away the dark clouds so that you can experience the happiness that is your natural state. And so that's your function, is to let go so that you can return your mind to your natural state and be happy.
Yeah.
Which is how God created you.
Yeah.
How you are extended, in that happy state is a reflection, as I said, of pure formless awareness of perfect love in this world.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the last one. So in the shorter practice period, he's saying, just remind yourself that my happiness and function are one. Because God has given me both, because pure formless awareness of perfect love gives me both. So they're one and the same. My happiness and my function are one. My function is to be happy. You can say it in many ways. So remind yourself of that often today. And something, although it's a simple statement, something rewires when you do this, doesn't it? It's like my happiness, my function are one. Well, my only function is to be happy. For if you've been in the ego's thought system, that's a revelation. That's like, wow, really?
It is.
My only function is to be happy. I thought I had all these other functions that didn't make me happy, but actually I was delusional. My only function is to be happy. And that's not arrogance, and that's not
no, it's definitely
self-indulgent. That's the truth. And if you're not happy, then you're not fulfilling the function. Your life has no meaning and purpose. So then a correction is required. Okay, well, I need to acknowledge that my happiness is the only purpose. It's my only function here. So I need to apply the means for happiness, which is forgiveness or letting go, in order to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
So then I make the changes that are necessary to allow happiness to come in. And it comes down to one simple thing. Can you let go or not?
It is that simple, but we may use all...
Can you let go
yes.
of your expectations, your attachments, your grievances, anything that blocks your happiness? Can you let go of that and allow yourself to be happy in the moment?
In the moment, yeah.
That's the simple truth.
That's the thing. It's the moment, because it creeps in. I mean, people use all kinds of tools to try and get into this, get your brain rewired, like hypnotherapy. Is that would you recommend things like that, or is that just another magic?
Well, it's a mind training. You can use these hypnotherapy as a version of meditation, really. Taking you into an altered state, changing your mind.
Yeah.
But too often it's about, well, I want some change on the level of form.
Yeah.
I want to make my life better. So I'm going to do this. But actually, the answer is not in form. The answer is to go into your true awareness, which you recognize is beyond form, and live through that. While you're in form, you live through it and in it and by it, and it guides you. But you realize that you are beyond form. You are pure formless awareness of perfect love. So you're not seeking a magic solution to make you happy sometime in the future. That's magic. Whereas pure formless awareness says, well, you have it right now. You can be happy right now. Yeah. So speaking of which, shall we do a meditation on this? Be happy right now for the next 20 minutes. And then we're going to have to end the session because I've got a train and a plane to catch. So
I'm just going to hop off, but I'll be listening to you on YouTube because I've just got to go out.
Yeah, I think I'll do the same as well. Yeah. So have a wonderful trip in South Africa.
See you on the other side.
Thank you. I'll see you on the other side. Yeah. Tomorrow afternoon, we'll do a session at 5 o'clock, I think. 5. Just watch the group. If anything untoward happens, when traveling, you never know. But I should be installed in my new accommodation and have Wi-Fi that's not interrupted by power cuts. So it should all be good.
Great.
Okay. See you tomorrow.
Okay.
Bye. On the other side.
Bye.
Bye. Namaste. Good
Namaste.
journey.
Oh, okay. So I'll guide the meditation. Are you jumping off as well, Elaine?
Yeah. I was just going to, because I've got to take a dog back. Yes. So I'm going to listen to it on later on.
Okay. Are you going to join the rest of the week because you've had your 3 sessions?
That's right. Yes. So shall I just leave it till should we do? When's the next one? How do you work it?
The next one would be Sunday. Yeah, if it's Sunday
or Monday.
Next one would be Sunday. But I'm quite happy to do that trade if you want. It's up to you if you want.
You mean where you stay downstairs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I'm quite happy to do that. Yeah.
Oh, you mean so when you and Deborah stay with your son, you can stay on for the extra period? Is that right? Downstairs?
No, I probably won't stay on if we're not running a retreat. But I'll use it at some point, maybe next year.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
Maybe run some of the first the 6-week Art of Letting Go there or something. So I'll use it at some point. So if you're happy. I mean, I can see you enjoy doing the sessions daily. So, why not?
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll just keep up. Yeah, definitely. If you're happy with that, then I'll just, because I'll not be probably there every day anyway, but it'd be nice to see you in South Africa. So I'd like to join tomorrow. That would be nice.
Yeah. All right. So we'll
you're more than welcome to stay down in the Airbnb. Yeah. Great. Have a great journey. Right. Okay.
Thanks, Elaine.
Okay. Namaste.
Namaste. See you on the other side. Okay, so just going to guide the meditation. So just making yourself comfortable. You're listening in, sitting with your feet shoulder width apart, your back straight, got your hands in your lap. Close your eyes and start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises, and subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Pausing at the top of the inhale, clench the sphincter muscle to lock the energy in. Let's draw the energy up the spine into your heart center, putting one hand on your heart to connect with your heart space. Drawing the energy up into the crown of your head, pausing at the top of the inhale. So just scan your mind now. Notice any unhappy thoughts and emotions, related body sensations, particularly anything that feels negative, limiting, contracted, constricting in any way, shape or form. Let's breathe into that. And going to Notice all these unhappy thoughts and emotions. Remind yourself of today's lesson that my happiness and my function are one, because God, or pure formless awareness of perfect love, gives me both. My happiness and my function are the same. My happiness is my function. So breathe that happiness in, feel it infusing every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being is infused with this happiness. It's really nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, just experience the happiness. It comes from your state of pure formless awareness of perfect love. He is present now in your awareness. You can be happy now. And give yourself that permission. Just to be happy right now. Nothing else required, nowhere else to go, nothing else to do. There's no past, there's no future. Just right now, you're in your true awareness, pure formless awareness of perfect love. And you are happy. And so just watch your breath now, in and out through the nose. Allow the breath just to flow in and out, observe it and sink inwards. Just go deeply into my happiness that is your natural state, true state of awareness. Pure formless awareness of perfect love is your natural state and right. And just sink into happiness for the next couple of minutes of deep contemplative silence, deep happy silence. Next 2 minutes. Any thoughts come up to seemingly disturb your peace, make you unhappy, thoughts about the past, the future, what you have to do, where you have to go. Any desire, any expectation, any grievance. Breathe into it. Just breathing in the happiness, peace. Replaces it. Remind yourself that my only function is to be happy. My happiness and my function are one, because pure formless awareness of perfect love gives me both. Sometime in the future, but right now. So exhale, drop any unhappy thoughts and emotions, let them all go. to the nothingness they really are. Lower stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out. And just rest. Rest in the deep happiness. That is your natural state and right. Another minute or two of deep silence. And so gently coming out now, bring your awareness back into the body, the breath, senses, and the world. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Pausing at the top of the inhale, smile, scan your mind, notice any remaining unhappy thoughts or emotions or body sensations, and just let them go. Reminding yourself that happiness is your only function. My happiness and my function are one because pure formless awareness and perfect love gives me both. And you exhale on the truth of that. Blow it all out like a black smoke out of your mouth. Going, gone, leaving you to the nothingness that it really is. Pull the lower stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out. So on the count of 2, notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground, noticing what you're feeling, your hands touching. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth, smell in your nose, notice that. Notice what you're hearing in the surrounding environment. Just notice all these things in this very still, calm, and surrendered state of mind. State without illusions, state of peace, happiness, love, joy. Anchor that in. So really notice that it's there, irrespective of what you're perceiving with your senses. Anchor that state in, set the intention to stay there for the rest of the afternoon and evening. You can use your breath break recording. I've sent you a 2-minute and a 3-minute version. You can listen to those frequently. Yeshua recommends every half an hour. Or just remind yourself, my happiness, my function are one. You take a deep breath in and you connect with this happiness. That need only take you 5 or 10 seconds. Just reminding yourself to do it. And that will keep you in a very happy, flowing state, So on the count of 3 now, open your eyes. Just take a minute to look around, to anchor yourself back into this reality, grounding yourself into sense perceptions again, but notice that this happiness is still with you. If you look around, notice it doesn't really matter what you're looking at or what you're experiencing. You have the same awareness. This happy awareness underlies everything that you think and say and do. So just stay in that happy awareness for the rest of the afternoon and evening. Practice well. Practice the lesson every half an hour to help you do that. And one more time, listen to the longer meditation or this one this evening to top yourself up before bed and practice this again. So that brings us to the end of the meditation and today's session. So thank you to everyone who joined, Sally, Jackie, and Elaine, and anyone who's listening on the recording. I will catch you on the other side. I'm flying to Cape Town tonight and tomorrow, and the next session will be in Cape Town at 5 p.m. tomorrow. At 5 p.m. UK time, 6 p.m. South African time. Tomorrow evening, we'll do another live session. We will have a look at the text. We'll focus the text more in the evenings when we do an evening session. Day sessions will be more focused on the workbook. It's just not enough time to do it all. So yeah, I hope to see you then. And thank you, everyone. Go well and see you on the other side. Namaste.